We are live.
Boa noite pessoal, boa noite, Christian.
Boa noite.
Convidado especial aqui de um cara digamos, old school death metal, John McEntee. Então, sejam bem-vindos ao canal, seja bem-vindo, Jorge, seja bem-vindo, John. Prata da casa aí, Christian, Matt Fish aí.
Então, tá, ok. Well, thank you very much for giving us the pleasure to talk to you today.
No problem.
I hope
My
you
pleasure.
enjoy the
Pleasure's all
conversation.
mine.
Yeah. Thank you very much. So, ok. Pode começar, Ivan, com a primeira pergunta.
Certo. O John, ele viu, digamos que o death metal surgindo lá do começo dos anos, no final dos anos 80, e ele já montou Incantation lá no final dos anos 80, e ele viu as ramificações do estilo acontecendo. Ele acha que isso foi benéfico, se foi maléfico, as bandas criaram mais identidade quanto a isso?
Okay, so Ivan is asking about the beginning of your career because you saw the beginning of death metal. You were there when it started, and also you were there when the death metal started to change style to like became like more faster, more aggressive, sometimes a little bit trashy too. So how do you see these changes in the death metal? Are they good? Are they bad?
Okay, well, I mean, I don't think the changes in death metal over the years is bad necessarily. What I don't like is when there becomes like rules on how it's supposed to be, or like the trends on how to be get too strong. That's more the problem than you know, it moving forward. I mean, music moving forward is the way that death metal pretty much started, is we wanted to, like bands wanted to push the limits of aggression and brutality and darkness in the music and stuff. And
Yeah.
that was exactly what we wanted to do as a band with Incantation too. We wanted to take the stuff we learned and push it further. So moving it further into more extremes is only normal. But like I
Yeah.
said again, just when it gets to be trendy or it gets to be rules, that's the problem. I noticed early on that there were kind of rules where a lot of bands in the U.S. at least were going to Mars Sound Studios and trying to get like a similar production, like this really nice, clean production for a death metal band. I mean, I don't hate those bands that got those productions by any means, but I don't think that that's the only way to do it. And like so many bands, they got together, they started their band and they wanted to be just like, I don't know, say just like Death or just like Morbid Angel or just like Obituary, and just try to get
Yeah.
that exact production. And that stuff is bad because that waters down the scene.
Yeah, I got it. Ok, gonna give the Portuguese version here.
Okay?
Bom, ele fala que ele não vê essas mudanças no death metal como ruim, porém ele não gosta de caga em regras, de seguir regra e muito menos tendências, né? Tanto que ele fala que a música ela tem que estar sempre à frente, né? Isso que fez o death metal ser o que é, tá sempre um passo à frente, ser extremo. Ele também, quando montou a banda, eles queriam estar mais à frente ainda, né? O que ele também cita ali, que ele não gosta muito, é a tendência que teve, né? Por conta do Morbid Angel, do Obituary, dos Morrison Studios lá, que a gente sabe que toda que é banda que passou por lá soa igual, né? Porque as bandas queriam soar mais ou menos. Ele acha particularmente isso meio ruim, né? Porque, tipo, ali meio que queriam criar uma regra, né? Tem que ser assim. Isso ele não acha tão benéfico, não. Mas no sentido assim, a música ela tem que estar em constante evolução, né? E para ele o Incantation também tem que estar assim, né? Ok?
Ok. O Incantation ele teve muitas mudanças de formação, mas é importante salientar que o estilo deles permaneceu intacto, assim. O que foi melhorando mesmo foi a produção a produção das músicas, mas o estilo deles é continuar. Eles são, digamos, o Motorhead do death metal, assim, os caras se tornaram lineares e conhecidos por manter uma identidade.
Sim. Okay, so Ivan is asking about the lineup because you suffered like different changes in the lineup, but it never affected the sound of Incantation. It's like didn't change anything. Like as he mentioned, like Motorhead, like variations of lineups, but the sound is like when you listen to, it's like okay, this is Motorhead. It's like doesn't matter who is playing. It's like the same happened to Incantation. Became like kind of. I think your sound is kind of your trademark. Like, how do you see that?
Yeah, well, the way I look at it, I mean, obviously, I've been the kind of the main songwriter from early on, so that aspect's always gonna, there's always gonna be similarities. I mean, there's gonna be growth in the sound and stuff like that, but there's there's always gonna be a certain amount of similarities in some of the stuff that I do, just because it's me writing this stuff. I mean, but to be fair about it is that when different members are in the band, they all bring different things to the table, and I do write with all the as many different people as will write with me, because I enjoy working with other people. And but I think when we write, I write with people, they kind of know what to expect and what to do to kind of fit into the sound. But for me, it's always been very important to find a sound and stick with it, because I was always disappointed with a lot of my favorite thrash and mostly those thrash and heavy metal bands of the 80s. They would put out some really great albums, and then after a few albums, it keep get watered down more, and it would start to change into something different. And I just wasn't into that. I figured, if I wanted to change something and wanted to turn it into something different, I would start a new band to do something like that. I mean, I have no problem if bands want to experiment. I'm not saying they shouldn't. Each band should do their own thing. But for me as a metal fan, I was always very disappointed with those kind of changes, and I, didn't want to do that in Incan. And the fact that we're able to play, it's like 30 years, over 30 years since we started, and we could play new songs and old songs in the set, and they work together flawlessly is pretty awesome, actually. I think it's great. I mean, some bands would look at that maybe as lack of progression, but I look at it as this is a self-expression for myself, so I'm totally down with it.
Yeah, it sounds great because you have all the old fans attached to the band and the new fans also enjoying it. So it's like pretty useful at the same time too. I think most of the bands don't realize it. I think they want to change because of industry sometimes, or sometimes they don't really enjoy what they are doing, or sometimes happens they learn how to play better and then they decided to move to other style and don't change the name of the band, so it really affects the fans.
Yeah.
Okay,
Agree with that.
so
I agree with that. It's the it's a bummer when a band that you really like, they either learn how to play or something like that, and then it ends up sucking.
Yeah.
It's not the same or whatever. And
Yeah.
I don't blame them for, wanting to be better and do stuff, but sometimes, at least in my opinion, you have to know when to call it quits, and say, okay, this is no longer, the core of the band anymore. We have a totally different idea. Let's just start fresh. And, if you're good and even if you made a name for yourself, it shouldn't take that much time for it to catch on or to do well if you have a good reputation already. You shouldn't be scared to let this band be that, this style be that name, and maybe this style be that name or something like that.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm gonna just give the Portuguese version here. Bom, que a gente estava falando ali sobre essas mudanças de formação não afetarem, tá? Ele fala que ele sempre ficou, ele sempre foi o compositor principal da banda, né? Então, os que entravam, ele gostava de trabalhar junto também. Ele sempre gostou de trabalhar com ideias novas, ele não tem essa cabeça fechada assim, mas ele, particularmente, ele achou a sonoridade que o Incantation tem que ter e ele se pegou naquela sonoridade, é assim que o Incantation vai soar e é assim que tem que ser. Então, as mudanças do line-up não afetaram em nada disso, né? Então, tipo, ele também fala que ele ficava muito frustrado na década de 80 e 90, ali, quando as bandas que ele gostava mudavam de estilo do nada, assim, e isso meio que chateava um pouco. Ele entende que as bandas querem evoluir, às vezes os caras dizem que ou veem a banda como não evoluindo porque ela tá presa ali naquela sonoridade, quer fazer aquilo, mas ele gosta daquilo ali, é o que ele quer fazer realmente, porque, como ele mesmo falou, né, ela é a sonoridade que ele achou, né, e o que ele quis fazer. Eu aproveitei e adicionei ali uma pergunta para ele, né, sobre essas mudanças de estilo das bandas, assim, serem mais ligadas ao fato de gravadora, ou até mesmo às vezes os caras evoluírem, aprenderem a tocar e esquecerem um pouco daquilo, né. Ele também concorda com isso, às vezes as bandas deveriam, né, trocar de nome, ou procurar outra coisa, porque às vezes realmente eles não eram tão bons assim, mas o som era bom. E isso acaba sendo um pouquinho decepcionante, assim, quando a banda aprende a tocar, melhora o som, mas a sonoridade não melhora, não, né? Então, tipo, acaba perdendo muito. E o Incantation, como eu salientei ali por ele, por questão da sonoridade, ele mantém os fãs antigos, fiéis à banda, e também agrega novos fãs sem problema nenhum. Então é uma banda que, né, como diz a gente fala aqui no Brasil, né, para que mexer no time que tá ganhando, né? Então deixa assim.
É impressionante a identidade que o Incantation tem, assim, cada álbum a gente já sabe o que vai vir. Vai vir um álbum poderoso, um som forte, pesado.
Deixa eu só. Say, John?
Okay, I was going to say that on that point that I didn't bring up was that, I mean, there's people that think that, you know, we've changed a lot since, you know, our early recordings and stuff. And I mean, of course, there are things that have changed over the years. I mean, you can't just 100% just repeat your own thing. But really, I think the most important thing that changes is, you know, the production and stuff. What you're talking about,
yeah,
you're talking 30 years of production changes since we've done our demos, before we done our first, you know, albums. I mean, it's 20 years, you know, since we did the Infernal Storm album, you know. So I mean, there's gonna be updates and differences with the way things are recorded. I mean, these days it's really you know, it's not as practical as it was before to go into a studio and belt out the whole thing. You know, we used to go into studio for, like, I don't know, 3 weeks or 4 weeks and just punch the album out right then and there. And there's a charm about that, which is great. But, you know, things are just different now. You know, when you're living in the, you know, digital world, and you have to do things economically, you know, reasonable. But I don't see that there's like such a huge difference. I mean, I think, say, over the last 10 years, our albums have been easier to listen to, I guess, for some people that might not be diehard underground people. But I don't think that, you know, I don't think you can listen to one of our albums and be like, holy crap, that's weak. You know, that sounds really wimpy. I think there's just some people that just get bummed out because we can't get the same sound, you know, or we don't try to pretend we're back in say,
it's like
and
emulating.
We want to be honest about the recordings and the music, and every album that we do is very honest to the, you know, who we are as a band now and the technology of the time, without you know, without changing the style of music, you know, or anything. So but I think
keeping the soul of the band.
What's that?
Keeping the soul of the band alive.
Yeah, but I think I just think it's funny because I mean I don't get there's very few people that are kind of, I don't know, maybe elitist or something to the old school stuff, but in the reality, um, you know over the last 10 years we've gained way more fans that have appreciated our newer stuff and also went back and listened to those
Yeah.
older albums that they might not have even given it a chance unless they heard some of our newer stuff. So it's, but I just thought it was, I thought it wouldn't be right for me to judge what other bands do and change their sound without,
Yeah.
explaining a little bit on my side of it.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. So I'm gonna give the explanation em português here. Bom, ele estava falando ali sobre mudanças, né? Que alguns fãs dizem que o Incantation mudou do começo para cá, né? Mas ele salienta ali que, olha, nesses 30 anos o processo de gravação mudou bastante. Então, obviamente, isso afeta a banda um pouco. A banda não mudou o estilo. O que muda de lá para cá, desses 30 anos, é a maneira com que os álbuns são produzidos. Então, tipo, tem os fãs mais, né, truzão, assim, os die hard, né, que não aceitam mudanças. Os caras não são capazes de entender que, né, cara, tecnologia, não dá mais para te gravar como tu gravava nos anos 80. É diferente, a gente sabe, né? Tipo, quem entrou num estúdio para gravar lá na década de 80 e 90, que nem a gente sabe que, né, o bagulho mudou drasticamente.
Era outra época.
Não, ainda lembrava da época das fitinhas DAT lá, que se gravar, perder, já era, chorava sentado num canto lá, né? Mas isso também não afeta tanto, porque tem fãs novos, o Incantation agrega fãs novos que também vão atrás do material antigo e também gostam do material antigo. Mas é que nem ele falou, não quer ser injusto com as bandas que mudaram o estilo de som, né? Porque quiseram, porque, né, aconteceu, foram evoluindo, mas ele acha que é importante salientar isso, que, né, o que aconteceu bastante, assim, que influencia bastante na mudança de algumas bandas, é toda essa tecnologia. Antigamente não tinha isso, né? Tipo, então isso acaba afetando um pouco, assim. Eu vou fazer uma pergunta para ele aqui relacionada ao último álbum, né, e sobre as tours deles, ok? Well, I want to ask you about the last album, Sect of Vile Divinities. You didn't tour for the album yet because of the corona, right? Or have you had any concert?
We've only just recently, this last weekend, we've done Mexico. We did 5 shows in Mexico, which is our first shows for the Sect of All Divinities tour. And it's been, I mean, it was great to play Mexico City. Actually, Mexico City was the last place we played before the pandemic, and then they brought us back for a tour. Almost 2 years later, after I wouldn't say after the pandemic, but when things opened up more. So it was really great for us to play live, and the reaction was just phenomenal. I mean, Mexico is known for being one of the best countries for death metal, and it definitely did not disappoint at all. It was exactly what we needed as a band to really, feel good and just get ready to, pretty much kill posers, for the next, as long as we can or whatever with, for the album, because we do want to do a full tour of US and of Europe and South America and hopefully Asia for this album.
Great. Ok. Eles já tocaram um pouco, né, no México. Antes da pandemia, eles tocaram também no México. E tocaram agora há pouco também. Ele espera que logo possam tocar a turnê inteira nos Estados Unidos, na América do Sul e também na Ásia. Tá? Os shows foram bem legais, né? Então, tipo, ele espera que consigam fazer tudo normal novamente agora, né? Vamos ver agora, ano que vem. There is a question from the audience here. Preceptor is asking about the new album, if there is any chance of being released here in Brazil. You know anything about it?
Yeah, I don't. I want to say not in the immediate future because over the last, I don't know, 5 years or something. I don't really know how long, but Relapse hasn't been doing many licensing deals anymore. They rather just sell the record directly. I guess they must have had problems with some of the deals that they've made in the past and stuff. So they
Hmm.
really they'd rather sell it to the record stores directly down there or sell to a distributor directly. So I don't see a Brazilian version of the album released. I know we're going to try really hard to bring as many copies of the album with us. We do go to
Yeah,
South America because obviously it's not as easily obtained. It's not as easy to obtain there, especially at a reasonable price and stuff. So we're going to try our best, but it's just the world's so different when it comes to how record companies make money to pay back everything that
yeah,
you know they can't be quite as open as they were before. I guess they have to hold their releases closer to them, to them getting the
yeah,
direct money back because obviously they got to sell the records and then they give back. They pay us back for recording or whatever stuff. So they things are going good with us and Relapse as far as like you know
hmm,
the contract goes, but I think once somebody else gets involved, um, it seems to be problems. I mean, to be fair, I mean, no, not to be fair, to be honest, a lot of times when people license a record, say to Brazil, let's use that for instance, sometimes they'll sell that version of it outside their territory and not sell it just in Brazil, where they
yeah,
might have the rights to it. They'll sell it to Europe, and then it cuts into the sales in Europe. And it doesn't. It's not that it just screws Relapse over money wise, but it screws the band over because we need to keep account of how we're selling in each territory. So it kind of helps us get better opportunities as a band to tour if our album
yes,
does well. But if it's pressed in Brazil and they're shipping it all over the world, then it's a problem. For us and for Relapse. Relapse, it's more of a maybe a money thing. For us, it's more of just properly figuring out where you know where we're doing better and where we're doing worse in the world.
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know because I think Century Media had a problem 10 years ago here. I think I'm not so sure about I think it was 10 years because they licensed like something 500 copies of each album, and then that 500 copies would never end. Sounded a little bit weird. Like how you selling like 500 copies in like a 5 years catalog, the same catalog for 5 years. It's like, it's like that's why Brazil is bad. Like the people have a bad impression of Brazil. I understand completely what you say because most of the time people license things not to sell them, but I think it's like to misappropriate the thing. It would be the best word for that. Like, or to really appropriate the thing is if it were their work. Like this is a real problem. It's the same for me, like when people download music without paying for it. Like I have problems with that.
Yeah.
Obviously it's a little bit expensive to get the physical material, but if you really want that, you can have it. Like just put some effort on it. It's like if you really enjoy the band, if you support the band.
Well, the problem is that even if people have good intentions on doing the right thing, they find out it's so easy to just you know be not honest, that
Yeah,
they could easily be dishonest, and then that really screws things up because the thing is in I mean, to be fair, within say Latin America especially, there's a lot of people that are really trying to do the right thing, you know, and they're
Yeah.
struggling because they're actually fighting against people that are, you know, are not being so honorable on stuff, you know. And
Yeah.
I really appreciate, because, you know, over the years it's definitely gotten better in most Latin American countries, but you know, it's still, you know, when I try to get somebody like to license something from, say, South America, when I have to talk to either labels or management or something like that, I always get pushback because they've all had bad experiences, and it's hard
Yeah.
for me to tell them, yeah, but this guy was cool, and you know, the people, you know, say, yeah, but someone told me the last guy was cool, and he ripped us off too, you know. So it's a shame that it's like that, you know, and it's not exclusive to Latin America. I mean, there's people in the U.S. that are, you know, do
Yeah.
the wrong thing too, but and Europe, everywhere. But it's just
Europe.
that,
Italy. I'll never like most of the bootlegs I know came from Italy, you know.
yeah. So I mean, it's all over the world. These problems, you
Yeah.
know. It just some reason, you know, maybe it's just because of, you know, Latin America, you know, say is mostly third world countries, so you know, there's a less, you know, say bootlegging and, you know, doing whatever you can to make money is just more, you know, they do it for maybe personal survival and not doing the right thing, you know.
Yeah, some people, yeah, it's like I really agree with that. Like small, not it's not a company, it's someone in like in the back of the house doing that. Gonna talk em português to the audience here, okay? And then we shift to English. Bom, falando sobre a possibilidade de ter o disco lançado aqui, é muito difícil, ele não vê essa possibilidade porque as gravadoras ultimamente não estão querendo lançar nada dentro da América Latina por problemas com licença. O que acontece é que eles lançam um determinado número de CDs e eles têm que vender esses CDs para cada país, né? Eles têm um controle disso, né? Como está vendendo nos Estados Unidos, na Europa, na América Latina. E acontece que quando eles lançam no Brasil, o pessoal acaba, né, se passando um pouco e ainda mandando e atrapalhando as outras vendas de outros países junto. Isso acaba mais prejudicando a banda do que ajudando a banda. Fala que, sério, quando eles vierem para cá, eles vão tentar trazer o máximo de CD possível, né, com um preço justo, assim, sabe que a situação tá ruim, tá difícil pra galera conseguir CD original bom, assim, né, mas o maior problema nessa questão aí é que muitas das gravadoras, elas têm o pé atrás com o Brasil, né, com a América Latina no geral, assim, de lançar material aqui por essa questão de licença, né. Ele também salienta que ele sabe que tem bastante produtoras pequenas que fazem um trabalho sério, né, trabalham para lançar material profi, como tem que ser, com os direitos, tudo, mas sempre tem, né, alguém que até é honesto e acaba se desvirtuando um pouco pela oportunidade, né, mas os poucos que conseguem fazer isso acabam afetando a maioria que está tentando trabalhar. Isso que é o problema na visão dele, assim, isso acaba afetando o mercado um pouco. Também a gente estava falando ali sobre pirataria, coisa e tal, que também afeta um pouco o mercado, mas ele também vê isso também como algumas pessoas pirateiam, né, fazem a versão pirata por uma questão de sobrevivência também. É feito em fundo de quintal ali, não é uma gravadora fazendo pirataria, né, como acontecia.
São pequenos selos, né?
Não é que nem aconteceu há uns anos atrás aqui, né, no Brasil, né, que, né, no catálogo da Centro Mídia nunca esgotava, né, tipo, tu tem licença para 500 CD e continua ali. Né.
There's one thing I wanted to add to the thing is that I think some people think that, like, since you're playing a band and you're, you know, especially on like a label like Relapse or something, that you're rich, and it's totally not the case. And it's like every time people, you know, if we're playing shows and people are bootlegging shirts outside of the venue, or, you know, selling our stuff, you know, and not giving us any, you know, even a little bit of the profit for it, you know, it all hurts, because even if, you know, all the bootleggers out there, they even just paid us, you know, a little bit off each shirt that they sold, you know, it would be a big help for me and the rest of the guys in the band to try to just, survive. And we do these tours, a lot of times they're on a very shoestring budget. It's not like, bigger bands, of course, do great,
Yeah,
but for a death metal band or, a black metal band or something, most of those bands are making barely
underground
enough
bands.
to get by and just pay like, their rent or something like that. So people just have this, they think that it's not actually hurting people, and it actually does hurt people. I mean, it hurts
Yeah,
us, the band, even though they're promoting the band that's helping, they're not doing anything to really say, well, okay, well, we're going to sell your shirts, and here's something just for, here's a little piece of it just to, show that doing the right thing. I mean, every once in a while, somebody will send me either some copies of something, or whatever, just, okay, we made these, here's a few copies. I mean, at least something, that we can kind of maybe sell and try to make a little bit off of. I mean, but it does actually hurt bands. A lot of bands don't like to talk about it so much, but it's, it's a problem in the underground scene because, you're flattered that people want your stuff and they'll make it, but at the same time, they should, pay the artist. I mean, we're not making money, we're barely making money off record sales. We're barely making money off downloads. Shows is the only way to like cover expenses if
yeah.
you want to really dedicate your life to, your art and your music. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a real shame.
Yeah,
Uh,
living as a musician was very difficult before the pandemic. Now it's more
Yes.
difficult yet. Explica em português. Eu vou falar ali o que ele estava comentando sobre pirataria, tá? Que ele estava falando ali que as pessoas têm essa impressão de que tu sai de uma gravadora, vai para outra gravadora e a banda é rica, né? Então, tipo, ele fala que tem muita, vai no show, tem muita coisa pirata, muita camiseta pirata do Incantation, coisa e tal. Isso meio que magoa um pouco assim a banda no sentido que tipo essas camisas não trazem nada para a banda, tipo, ok, se tu quiser tentar licenciar, tenta licenciar, pagar um pouco para a banda assim, porque afinal a banda vive de show. E na situação que está ultimamente, não dá para conseguir nada. O pessoal ainda tem essa ideia errada, né? Uma banda de death metal, uma banda de black metal, ela não ganha rios de dinheiro que nem uma banda tipo Iron Maiden da vida, assim. Então, tipo, é complicado isso.
os caras ganham com
Podia,
shows ganham com shows e merchandising.
o merchandise. O pessoal não quer comprar o merchandise original, porque não tem dinheiro, às vezes. Mas o problema é que tem alguém ganhando muito mais dinheiro do que deveria em cima do trabalho deles, e isso meio que é chato um pouco, assim. Pô, se tu quer fazer, vai ali, vê para legalizar a
Faz, né?
camiseta e faz, né?
Sim.
Tipo, não é tão difícil assim. Eu vou fazer a
Fica-
pergunta do Rafael Albino ali.
Pode ser.
Pode ser?
Eu ia falar para ele que ele tem o Incantation já passou inúmeras vezes aqui no Brasil e os shows dele são sempre marcantes, né? Que até o cara falou aqui do Setembro
Sim.
Negro, né? De
Sim,
2019. Tem alguma data já pré-marcada aqui para o Brasil?
Okay. We were talking about the concerts you had here in Brazil. They were like remarkable. It was like great concerts. And Ivan and Rafael Albino are asking if there is any possibility or something scheduled for Brazil next year.
Yeah, well, we're actually working on something at the moment for next year, so we're hoping that goes through. It's a little bit too early to announce it, but yeah, expect to see us in 2022. It should happen. I don't know how many shows or anything. I don't know, if it'll be with anybody else yet, but it's definitely in the works.
Great. Eles estão negociando. Eles ainda não sabem quantos shows, mas é para 2022 temos o Incantation no Brasil aí. Ainda não está certo quantos shows, né? Não se sabe direito ainda, mas eles estão com as negociações para isso. Rafael Pereira is asking here, how was the transition as a solo guitar to the vocal and guitars? Like, how was it for you?
Oh, how is it? What's the difference or whatever? How is it switching?
Yeah.
It was a pain in the ass. Yeah. Well, basically, I never wanted to be a frontman vocalist. When I was starting the band, I wanted to be more like maybe a Mike Terrell from Possessed or something. where it was just a songwriter, you know, and it wasn't even a thought to be the vocalist or whatnot, but it was only because I was frustrated with the vocalist turnaround, you know, people just not staying dedicated. And we started to realize at a certain point that it's too difficult to try to, I don't know, guide somebody into the way you want them to be as a vocalist. You know, like I was kind of like the architect of how I wanted the vocals to be. And then Kyle was the same way too. Like we both had a vision on how we wanted the vocalist to be, do vocals, to act on stage, all this stuff. And when you find people and you tell them, you know, all these rules or whatever, you know, it makes it not as natural for them. You know, you have to kind of find somebody and let them be themselves. But we realized we are really having a hard time finding that right person. So we realized that the only way we're going to do it is either if myself or Kyle does vocals, and Kyle said he's not playing drums and doing vocals. So I was like, okay, I guess I'll try, you know, and it took a long time. It took like a year to just get to the point of doing vocals at all. Playing guitar and doing vocals was tough enough to learn how to do after I was playing guitar at that time for about, I don't know, 15 to 18 years on just guitar. Never thought about singing backups even, you know? So I had to start from square one as far as how to do vocals and that. And then it got to the point, okay, I could do it, but then you have to learn how to do it with the proper power, the proper conviction, you know, give it the proper personality and stuff. And it just took a long time to do. And it's, you know, that I did it. But at the time I was kicking and screaming into it. I was like, no, I don't. I was too shy too. I didn't want to like talk to the audience, you know, like I was happy playing guitar and kind of hiding, you know, like just don't look at me, you know. Just
you know,
now it's like, you know, when I first had to do it and I was up there on stage, the mic in front of me, and it was like I was nervous as fuck, you know. now I'm comfortable with it, but at the time it was very difficult, you know.
Gonna talk to the people here. Bom, ele fala que foi uma bosta fazer guitarra e vocal, mas ele e o Kyle, né, tinham as ideias já montadas de como tinha que ser o vocal, coisa e tal, mas ele pegou a guitarra vocal porque ele já não estava satisfeito com as reviravoltas que tinha de vocal, né? Mas não foi uma coisa muito fácil, muito agradável, assim, né? Porque, tipo, tocando 15 anos guitarra só, né? Ele também fala que ele é meio tímido, assim, então foi difícil de achar a força correta para colocar no vocal, na guitarra. Então, tipo, no começo ele se quebrou bastante para fazer isso, né? Isso tava se quebrando ali, né? Então,
mas eu acho que ele demorou para tomar essa atitude. E outra coisa, o vocal dele é muito forte, um vocal muito poderoso.
E ele demorou 1 ano para conseguir fazer isso com confiança, tá? Porque ele fala aí, 1 ano, né, para conseguir ter confiança nele de que ele conseguiria fazer. Ele sabia que ele conseguiria fazer, mas o problema é saber como colocar apropriadamente cada coisa. O Kyle também sabia como fazer, sabia como estruturar isso, mas não queria ser o batera vocal, não.
Para isso ele teria que chamar o Chris Rayford.
Então, one quick thing I wanted to add to that too is that not most, but a lot of vocalists that I talk to that do vocals, it's almost the same story as me to some extent, maybe earlier on in the band, but it would just be like they couldn't find nobody, so they were just like, fuck it, I'll do it, you know? I think, I mean, if you talk to, I would say more than half of the guitar vocalists out there probably never wanted to play guitar and do vocals. They just did it because nobody else in the band would do it, and they just said, fuck it, I'll do it, you know?
Bom, eu tava falando ali que o problema foi que a maioria dos vocais eu não conseguia achar, e a maior parte dos guitarras vocais não quer ser guitarra vocal mesmo, né? E os que são que nem ele, tipo, foda-se, eu que vou fazer essa merda mesmo. Então, tipo, foi difícil, né, para tomar a decisão, mas aí pegou, olhou e disse, foda-se, vai ser eu mesmo e dane-se, vamos lá. Mas foi bem complicado, assim, porque consegui um vocal, né?
Sim.
E ainda fazer um guitarra vocal também, então, tipo, foi bem difícil mesmo, assim.
Tem uma pergunta do
Fala.
público aqui a respeito do Funeros, se ainda existe,
Uh-huh.
está nativa, se tem material novo.
Okay, Jonas Freitas is asking about funerals. Is there any stuff? Do you intend to release anything new about the band?
That I don't know. I don't play in Phoenix anymore, so I don't really know what the plans are for the new album or anything. As far as I know, they just released the Reduce the Sludge CD. They released it in Brazil with somebody. I don't remember who, but besides that, I have no idea what as far as especially recordings and stuff. I have no idea.
Ok, no problem. Bom, respondendo o Jonas aí, né? O Funeros ele não toca mais, né? Mas pelo que ele sabe ainda estão na ativa. Tem um CD lançado aqui no Brasil que eu não sei qual que é.
Os
Mas dois, né? Então,
Reduce
tipo,
to the Ashes.
e como ele não toca,
Reduce to Sludge.
Ok. Mas ele não sabe o que os caras estão fazendo. Então, tipo, né, provavelmente ainda tá nativo assim. Só ele não tá tocando mais. Alguma outra pergunta, Ivan?
Alguma possibilidade dele fazer algum show ao vivo com o Beast of Revelation?
Ivan is asking if there is any possibility to have a tour with the Beast of Revelation.
I don't think there would be a tour with the Beast of Revelation because I don't think the other guys really can or want to tour. But as far as like one-off shows, it's definitely a possibility. I mean, before the pandemic, we were talking about trying to do something in Europe, like after a tour or something, maybe try to set up a couple shows, something to kind of get to play a few shows. But we haven't, ever since the pandemic, we kind of just haven't talked about it. And but I mean, once we get kind of our schedule organized properly, and if we could figure something out, we'll definitely try to. I mean, I would love to. I mean, for me, it would be really cool to just do vocals and not have to play guitar. That would be something totally different for me and kind of cool to check out. I mean, try doing it. Kind of a new experience.
Yeah. Ok. Speaking in Portuguese. Bom, turnê ele não sabe, tá? Mas ele espera que consigam fazer alguns shows. Na verdade, antes da pandemia, eles já estavam conversando em fazer alguma coisa na Europa, alguns shows pequenos, assim, porque ele gosta bastante de fazer o vocal sem ter que tocar guitarra. Né? Mas uma turnê ele não sabe ao certo, mas eles, desde que começou a pandemia, eles já estavam falando, né, em fazer alguns shows pequenos, ao menos, assim, né, para tocar adiante, assim, né? Então, tipo, tem essa possibilidade, sou estúpido, falei corretamente em português, né? Então, há essa possibilidade de alguns shows, porém não uma turnê, né? Então, tipo, alguns shows pequenos, assim, em alguns lugares, tem essa possibilidade. Eles ainda conversam sobre isso. Ok, Ivan?
Quais são as influências do John, já que ele veio lá dos anos 80, já começou a banda lá nos anos 80? Quais são as influências deles como guitarrista, como no death metal, no thrash metal?
Ivan wants to know about your influences as a guitarist, since you were like a guitar player since the 80s. So,
well, I mean, I was influenced, by a lot of, like, I guess 70s and 80s stuff. I mean, that's, I first got really, I mean, I always liked the guitar sound, like the distorted guitar sound. I remember just listening to the radio and, just hearing a distorted guitar, I thought sounded badass. I didn't even know what it was. I didn't know. I barely knew what a guitar was. I just knew it sounded cool. But yeah, I mean, I say my earliest influences would have to be like probably Kiss or something. I grew up when I was like probably 6, 7, or 8, or I can't remember how old, but I got into Kiss in the 70s and stuff. So, that was kind of like the gateway into really like kind of heavy metal and stuff. And then, once the 80s progressed, a lot of the guitar players from there, like Yngwie Malmsteen, Richie Blackmore, Tony Iommi, like Iron Maiden, kind of, Judas Priest guys, stuff like that, was all influences. And it just kind of kept progressing, then it got to be, I started getting into more like the Possess, Seven Churches and like that. I really like that style of guitar playing a lot. That really influenced me, hearing, like for Incantation, like in say the mid to late 80s, I started really getting into the tape trading world and stuff like that. And I really was influenced by a lot of stuff I heard there, like, demos by like Morbid Angel and, Necrophagia and, I don't know, bigger stuff like Hellhammer and early Creator, all that stuff, all that stuff was really an influence on me, especially, for, Incantation. I mean, probably some of the biggest influences too were actually like Sarcophago and early Sepultura, like the Morbid Visions and Schizophrenia. Those ones really, like, when I heard those, I was like, fuck, like Sarcophago. When the first time I heard In Rye, I was like, what the hell is this? It's like, it was just so different and so brutal, And I mean, there was a bunch of great of the Cogmello bands back then, that I really, really liked. But we were just really influenced by a lot of, really extreme stuff. I mean, a lot of our peers were putting out demos too, and we get a demo in, it would be like heavy as fuck, and we'd be like, oh wow, that's great, and make you want to play heavier and stuff like that. So
Ok, gonna talk to the people here. Bom, ele fala ali que o esquema com a guitarra começou quando ele tinha uns 6, 7 anos, assim, no rádio, que ele começou a ouvir música, né, e ele nem sabia o que era uma guitarra, já tinha ficado fascinado pelo som, assim, mas a banda responsável por tudo, ele considera o Kiss, provavelmente também quando ele tinha uns 6, 7 anos, ele ouvia bastante Kiss, né, e o Kiss foi a porta para as outras bandas, assim, né? Ele cita ali o Malmsteen, cita o Wyoming, Blackmore, e depois Rich Blackmore. Depois também, nos anos 80 ali, já o começo do Death Metal também, né? O Possessed Seven Churches teve sua influência, né? E também outras bandas dos amigos ali, tudo na volta também, né, estavam cada um querendo fazer um som mais pesado que o outro, então isso influenciando um e o outro, né. O Esquizofrenia do Sepultura teve um grande fator de influência nele também, Sarcófago também, que ele é bem fã, assim, do Esquizofrenia e do Sarcófago. Necrophagia também, a outra banda que a gente chama de necrofagia aqui, né.
Aportuguesamos.
A portuguesa, o pessoal chama necrophagia is called necrofagia in Portuguese, ok? That's why I'm laughing. Então, o necrophagia também tem uma certa influência, assim, então, tipo, tudo um pouco ajudou-se bastante. Hellhammer, né, também teve uma certa influência, o Creator no começo também foi bastante importante.
Eu queria salientar que para quem já está acostumado a escutar o som do Incantation, todos os álbuns, tem aquelas músicas que é uma pancadaria apocalíptica, e que de repente para e fica um som extremamente lento e pesado. Parece, a impressão que o cara tem é que parece que o mundo dá aquela freada assim e tu se sacode. Assim.
Uma freada brusca, assim.
Dá uma freada brusca e o som fica muito pesado e muito lento.
Yeah, Ivan was just saying that the sound of Incantation is something very fast, brutal, and then like out of the blue, you just press the brake pedal, and then it's like the hit of something, like oh gosh, what was that? And it's like a slow down motion, getting heavier and heavier, and then you got like gosh, what's
Uma
that?
identidade, ele tem uma identidade nesse som, assim.
It's like he thinks it's like a kind of an identity for Incantation, like this
Yeah.
apocalyptic sound.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we really wanted to have the band be kind of really over the top and just, it's like more the feeling you get when listening to the music is the most important. It's not the actual technical aspect, but it's more the feeling you get when you hear the riffs and the like have it be just totally heavy and barbaric and stuff like that. But yeah, talking about also the influences in the early days when I was jamming with like Paul Edney and stuff, besides doing our own stuff, we would practice, we'd play like Sarcophago covers and like Bathory covers and just assorted, like Hellhammer, of course. We played Third of the Storms on our first demo. We even played that song. We would play like all stuff like that just as like, for fun or whatever, between writing songs, because early on we only had we wrote a couple songs and we started writing a song and it was okay, let's play some Bathory or Sarcophago, and it was just a good inspiration though to have that, because like, stuff like Sarcophago and Hellhammer and even Bathory were so extreme at the time, and had such a dark and oppressive vibe. It was just a good way to get in that mode of thinking,
Yeah. Ok. So, ele estava falando ali que eles sempre quiseram ter essa coisa, esse tipo de som pro Incantation, assim, essa coisa mais apocalíptica, assim, que nem tu falou ali, né? A banda ele sempre quis ter uma coisa top, assim. Não uma banda que fosse extremamente técnica, mas uma banda que fosse lembrada pelos riffs e pelo feeling, assim, né? Porque eles são muito apegados com o feeling, né? Essa coisa pesada que tem, assim, quando tu lembra, aquele choque, né? E também, quanto às influências, ele fala que eles gostavam bastante de tocar cover do Bathory, do Sarcófago, do Hellhammer, né? Tocavam cover da Third of the Storm, se muito me engano. Então, tipo, isso também ajudou bastante, assim, porque aquelas bandas naquela época tinham todo esse clima, era um choque, né? Naquela época era bem pesada mesmo, assim, uma coisa totalmente diferente. Então, isso agregou bastante para eles também. Vou ler a pergunta do Jonas.
A pergunta do público aí pra gente encerrar.
There is another question from the audience here. Jonas is asking about how was it to play in bands like Mortician and Goriophobia?
Oh, well, both were awesome. I mean, both were great bands. I remember when I heard the Mortician, they had a rehearsal demo out at the time, and I was blown away on how, like, heavy it was, and just it was heavy and primitive, and I was like, this is just awesome. And when they asked me to play for them, it was just, I was super honored to get that opportunity, and I knew it was just kind of filling in until they found somebody permanent, because I was just too busy at the time to do it as a serious band, but I had enough time to, jam with them and do some shows and stuff, at least for a certain amount of time. And it was great, because I learned a lot from that, because before I was doing Incantation, I was playing in a band called Revenant, which was more of a death thrash band at that time, and I think they turned into a death metal band, but at the time when I was playing with them, it was more death thrash, even a little bit of like hardcore mixed in and stuff like that. And but as far as myself, when I was in Revenant, I was really getting into writing more technical stuff, and when I play with Mortician, it helped bring me down to like bare bones, like it's like total caveman music, it was just like dum dum dum, it was like, and it was great to have that kind of I'd come up with a riff, say I tried it, because I tried to help him write a couple songs. I'd come up with a riff, say, was this cool or whatever, and he'd be like, no, that's too complex, and I thought it was simple, but what I thought was simple, what they thought were simple was different. And then they would take that and they would bring it down to even more basic, and they would take it down to like the bare bones, and it would just sound so heavy, and And it made me, as a songwriter, think like sometimes you got to just not look at the song as a guitar player, but look at the song as someone listening to it. Or what are you trying to get across with these riffs? It doesn't matter what the riffs are themselves. You know, it matters the feeling you get when you hear them, like I said before. So that was great.
I remember first time I listened to House by the Cemetery, got like like, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah. It's like the ultimate in being like one of the heaviest bands I think that ever existed. And I'm honored to play with them. And then going with Gorephobia. Gorephobia I played with later in their career. This was probably, I don't know, 12, 13, I guess, probably 13 to 15 years ago. I can't remember exactly. And I mean, it was an honor for me to do that too. I was super excited because I was a real big fan of, I mean, I still am a big fan of Gorephobia, but, you know, I was friends with those guys, you know, early on and, you know, like in the 90s, early 90s and stuff. And I loved their music. I thought they were a great band. So to get to be able to play some of those songs and help them, you know, I didn't do a lot of writing for them, but I did a couple little things here and there. But it was just an honor to be able to play with them. And at that time, when I was playing with Gorephobia, I really wanted to take a little bit of a break with Incan because I wanted to play in a band that I wasn't doing. I wasn't the main guy in the band. I was just playing guitar, and it was more fun. I didn't have to worry about some of the, you know, I didn't have to worry about the business stuff or anything, you know. The stress was off. It was just like have fun and play with Gorephobia. And that's awesome because, like I said, I mean, Gorephobia is one of my personal favorite death metal bands from, you know, the early 90s time period.
Great. Gonna speak in Portuguese here. Bom, tocar no Mortician foi algo para ele que foi muito enriquecedor, assim, ele teve, quando ele ouviu os caras ensaiando, assim, ele ficou, meu Deus, que é isso? Ficou assombrado com o som, né, porque a definição para ele é mais como se fosse uns homens das cavernas batendo com osso, né, um som pesado, denso, é uma das bandas ainda que é uma das bandas mais pesadas, assim, e ele aprendeu bastante também ali na questão de composição, porque, tipo, o que para ele era difícil, para os caras era fácil, o que para ele era fácil, para os caras era difícil, então tinha essa treta assim, né, tipo, isso aqui é simplesinho, não é tão simples, não, não, isso aqui é simples, então, tipo, foi uma excelente oportunidade, né, ele gostou bastante, assim, mas ele não tinha muito tempo para se dedicar no Mortician por questões de tempo, assim, ele pode fazer alguns shows, tudo, mas não conseguia dedicar tempo integral, assim. Já o Gorephobia, ele sempre foi fã, e também foi uma honra para ele ter tocado com eles, né, principalmente por ele ser fã, e também foi uma banda que ele aprendeu bastante, assim, né, uma coisa que também que ele aprendeu junto ali com o Mortician foi ver a música também como ouvinte, não só como músico, né, porque tu tem que ver onde é que tu quer chegar com os riffs quando tu tá compondo eles, e também tu tem que ouvir como músico e também como quem tá ouvindo, que é uma coisa que ele aprendeu. Com o Gorephobia ele se divertia bem mais porque, né, ele era só o guitarrista, não tinha que se preocupar com nada, não tinha estresse com nada, então para ele foi uma época bem boa, assim, ele se divertiu bastante, foi uma experiência bem legal também, né, ele aprendeu bastante coisa, né? Mas
para a gente encerrar aqui, o Rafael Albini insistiu na pergunta aqui que eu tinha passado, qual é a música que ele mais gosta de tocar? Para a gente encerrar aí, a gente...
To finish the last question, Rafael Albino is asking you, which is your favorite, the song you like most to play? Incantation, obviously.
That's difficult because it's easy to say the song I play the best, but you know, I mean, yeah, it's tough to say what song do I like playing the best. I mean,
difficult situation. Yeah,
like the songs are, you know, they're not all like super easy to play live and stuff, but I like for me, like I like the more obscure stuff that we don't normally play is usually more fun to play, but also more hard work because you have to like practice them more because you don't play them more. There's songs like these days, usually songs like Diabolical Conquest, Ibex Moon, and Carry On Prophecies are three songs that we kind of play all the time now in our set. It's kind of like they became kind of like crowd standards that they want to hear. And, but if I'm at practice, it's boring as fuck to play those songs because I play them a million times. But every time you play them live for the fans, it's great because you see the reaction, I mean, I would, I love playing Carry On Prophecies live. Just people really like that slow, slow to mid tempo dirginess of the song and stuff. But it's hard. It's really impossible to say because, if it was up to me, we had forever to play. I'd want to play, a more, obscure song or just one that we don't normally get to play. Because I'm just a person that likes more deep cuts than the fan favorites or whatever. So I don't know if I had to pick a song. I don't know. I would say fuck.
Oh fuck.
I don't know. Maybe like Demonic Incarnate or something like that off of the Mortal Throne album. I like the epic-y of that. If play that one live is fun, but the crowd sometimes doesn't always get into it because it's not like it's a crowd pleaser for the old school hardcore people, but some of the say generic fans think it's too much, like they want to hear the songs they know, like Devoured Death or I don't know, Vanquish and Vengeance or something like that.
Yeah. Ok, so I'm gonna give the information here. Oi, Rafa, pra tu então. É difícil pra cacete pra ele dizer qual música, né, ele gostaria de tocar, né? Mas ele prefere tocar coisas mais obscuras, assim, né? Tipo, ele gosta bastante de tocar Carrion Prophecies por causa da interação com o público, assim. Gosta de tocar algumas coisas novas, apesar do público ficar meio perdido também. Mas é muito difícil, assim, de dizer qual música favorita gosta de tocar, assim. Então, tipo, é problemático isso, assim. Ele gosta mais de tocar as coisas mais obscuras mesmo, assim, né? Então, eu acho que por aí a gente fecha, né?
Respondeu. É isso aí. Agradece ele aí.
Então, tá.
Queria agradecer ao público que participou aí. Tá muito bom o chat. Se inscreva no canal, toque no sininho, compartilhe. E no dia 7 de janeiro a gente vai ter James Murphy aqui com a gente para iniciar 2022, encerrando com uma lenda, que é o John, e iniciando com outro cara muito influente no death metal, James Murphy.
Okay, so
we're
finishing here. So thank you very much for the opportunity to talk to you today, John. It was a great pleasure. Okay, and feel free to say something for your fans too. And next year, January the 7th, we're gonna be speaking with James Murphy. I think you know the guy too.
yeah, I know James. Yeah, tell James I said what's up, and tell him congratulations on his show. That Death tribute show he did. That's really cool that he got to play again. It's been a while.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Yeah.
So feel free to leave a message for your fans.
Yeah. Well, just thank you guys so much. I mean, Brazil has always been like super, totally killer underground, metal as fuck, pretty much, and it's been great to, get the opportunity to play there so many times. We look forward to playing there again for sure. It's just, super awesome. The people are great, and it's great to know that there's a place in the world that like you're into metal and you don't give a crap about whatever the trends are. You guys have been metal since the first time we went there, I think in 2002 or 3, I forget when it was, to now every single time we go there, it's just like, it's just great that you walk around places, you see people with Iron Maiden shirts on and stuff down, in Sao Paulo. And, you never see that in the US. So it's really great. We love Brazil, and we love Brazilian barbecue too. It's fucking awesome.
Yeah. We have to taste the one from Rio Grande do Sul. That's the best one.
Yeah, Brazilian food is totally badass.
Yeah.
And thank you very much for the interview. I appreciate it. And all the best. And just have a good interview with James.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Christian. Obrigado, pessoal. Muito boa entrevista. John é uma figuraça. Pessoal, muito obrigado. Vamos encerrar o ano aí. Queria agradecer a todos que estiveram com nós, que estiveram conosco aqui. Com nós é foda, né? Que estiveram conosco aqui no ano de 2021. Que 2022 a gente esteja aqui ainda. Ninguém morra, por favor. Obrigado, boa noite. E já vamos encerrar por aqui.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Adios.
Thank you, John.
Ciao.
Ciao.
Ciao.